Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another video here on Ty Drives. My name is Ty behind the camera, and today we're looking at a car that doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. This is the 2021 Chevy Corvette, and this is the 1LT trim with the Z51 performance package. Now, I really don't think that I've been so excited to film a car other than this for a couple of years now. So this is very special review for me. Make sure you stay tuned to the end because we're going to be taking this car out for a little test drive. I'll put this GoPro on my head and we'll see what it's like to drive this car. We'll get a little feel for it. But before that, we're going to check out all the exterior details. We'll then get into the storage area, or the frunk. We'll open the hood, see what the engine has to offer, see what it looks like back there, then we'll move on into the interior. Before we get started with all that good stuff, I'd like to give a huge thanks to Valenti, Fiat, Alfa Romeo, Maserati here in Hartford, Connecticut for letting me film this vehicle. And it's actually a used vehicle with about 400 miles, roughly 400 miles on it. So with that being said, we'll start off up front with the headlamp. So of course, full LED units for the high, low beams, turn signals, and daytime running lights. Taking a look down below, again, this has the Z51 performance package. So you'll see various elements throughout the vehicle that includes very large air intakes off to the side and kind of smaller ones off into the center, but you could see how massive these side intercoolers are to keep that rear-mounted LT2 V8 cooled. We of course have the Corvette emblem up front on the bumper, and it's pretty aggressive yet simplistic design for the front. Let's just take a look at that from the front angle. Now, I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've seen many videos on this vehicle, but this one's going to be a little bit different because we're going to show you all of the features on the car, and not a lot of those videos do that. So, pretty short sloping luggage area, or hood, I guess you could say. And we have staggered wheels and tires. So the front measures 245/35, and they are 19-inch wheels. Really like this wheel design, kind of the best over the sort of more multi-spoke wheels. And this one has the black painted pockets or spokes and the machined rim around the wheel. Very big brake calipers, painted in yellow. Very nice contrast to the blue color on this vehicle. Taking a look up top, this is the coupe, not the convertible. So the top panel kind of removes and it becomes sort of a targa. We have turn signal indicators on the mirrors, which is pretty nice. And the door handles, I'm going to try to give you a good view of those. So up underneath, right about here, is a little roller pad. You just press on that and it sort of unlocks. Of course, the smart key entry also applies to that. We also have these pretty cool blades that lead into yet another air intake for the LT2. Little baby gas door over here. And taking a look up top, we have, of course, the engine cover, and we'll get into that just a little bit later in the video. Pretty aggressive performance tires, and back here, again, as I said, they are staggered. So out back, we have 305/30 R20 tires. So very thick tires in the back. Of course, we have the quad exhaust tips back here, parking sensors for the rear, full LED tail lamps with the sort of pretty cool sequential turn signal indicators. We have the little bit of a larger wing for the Z51 package, the Stingray badge on the deck lid, And of course, the reversing camera. There's also some heat extraction going on here with these side vents as well. So now it's one thing to see this car in pictures, but to see it in real life and get up close to it and really get to experience it, it's a completely different ball game, and I highly suggest doing it if you have the opportunity. What do you guys think about the styling on the exterior? Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, so having the frunk open, you either open it with the button on the key fob, or there's also a button on the driver's door to pop this open. And as you can see, all of the original wrapping and whatnot is still in the car, so you see how gently used this thing is. But if you peel away some of that stuff, you can kind of get a view of how deep this is, and it's a pretty good amount of storage in here. You can definitely put some carry-on bags or something like that. There's a couple of things over here, like a 12-volt power outlet too, and you have the little release there in case you're caught in there. I don't know I don't really know anybody this size that would get caught in the trunk of one of these things, but that button is there in case you do. You also have a couple of accesses to the windshield washer fluid and brake fluid. And once you pop this piece open, there is no release, sort of like a hood. You just kind of lift it up and close it down at your leisure. So out back of the Corvette, after pressing the release for the rear hatch, I guess you could call it, it's quite the big panel. First, we could talk about the storage area in here and take a look at how big it is. It's very deep, and it's also very wide. So you can definitely fit a set of golf clubs in here, and they give you tie downs for that as well, which I'm sure lots of Corvette owners will appreciate. They can fit a set of golf clubs in their mid-engine Corvette. But that's not what we're here for. What we're really here for is the LT2 6.2 liter V8 naturally aspirated that is now mounted in the center of the vehicle. As far as power numbers go, we're looking at 495 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque with the Z71 package. If you don't get the Z71 package, they only take away 5 horsepower and 5 pound-feet of torque. But take a look at those red painted valve covers. Very neat. Really great attention to detail under this hatch as well. All the bracing and everything. You can also see the rear window, which when you're inside the vehicle, you have a good look at the engine. So really cool to see this car here. And one more thing I'd like to point out, when you close this sort of hatch, you grab the handle right here, gently bring it down and it'll kind of latch. And it also has a soft close mechanism, so that's pretty neat. But here we go with the interior. So this is a pretty loaded out 1LT, which is kind of the base model. They go from 1LT, 2LT, and 3LT. So this has a good amount of options, including the competition bucket seats. So that's pretty awesome. As far as materials go on the door, very high quality. So you have soft touch, sort of leatherette here, and all the way down here, and then leather on your armrest. We have the Bose audio system as standard. We have all of our window controls and mirror adjustments right there. A couple of more buttons down here. The button to release the doors, lock and unlock. And then here are also the buttons I was talking about a little bit earlier to pop the front trunk and the rear. There's also a little bit of storage in here that's all carpeted. We have over here a pretty nice air vent, so you probably could barely even know that it's an air vent. You move it around with this little tab right here, so that's pretty neat. Also have this little square object here for the tilt telescoping steering wheel. I have a couple of things down here like your parking brake, so you pretty much just press it to activate and press it to deactivate, and a gauge dimmer up top. Nice pedals down here. You see we have the Stingray sill plate, so pretty wide sills there that you have to kind of get over to get in the vehicle. And we also have this right here, which is a mechanical release for the doors. Again, as I said, we have the optional bucket seats, beautiful carbon fiber work on the inside. Yellow seat belts too were an option for this vehicle. And take a look at that. Got a little airbag right here mounted to the seat, so that's pretty cool. And of course, we have the powered function there as well. Alright, so now that we're seated inside the Corvette, I can show you guys the key. It's a pretty nice emblem at the back. And a bunch of controls on the other side. So we have the lock, unlock, remote start, the front trunk and rear, and the panic alarm. So there's also a physical key on the inside. You press this button and the bottom of the key will slide out. So you have a physical key in case you need it. But to start, of course, it has push button ignition right over here. And let me tell you, it really does rock the whole vehicle. So you know that that 6.2 liter V8 is starting up. We can start off here with the steering wheel, which is completely wrapped in suede. So that's really good for being on the racetrack. Another thing I wanted to point out too is the cloth on these seats. So cloth is a lot more grippier than leather when you're on the racetrack, so it'll hold you in a lot better. Not that the crazy bolstering won't, but just something to point out there. Back to the steering wheel. We'll go over some of the functionality. So the cruise control is routed over here, and you have your different Z modes, which I'll get into just a little bit when we get into the display. On the bottom, and kind of better reach from the back, is our favorites and audio volume for the radio. And we also have some various buttons over here to control the digital gauge cluster. We also have the voice commands and your Bluetooth telephone controls. We have a square steering wheel with the center marker up there too, which is pretty awesome. We have magnesium paddle shifters, which is pretty neat. And behind the steering wheel, we have a couple of stalks, one for all of your lighting and turn signals and high beams, and also the other one for your wipers. And you also get a better view of the start engine button right there too. So first off, I'd like to go over some of the gauge setups, and you could move that around with changing the drive mode. So we're kind of in the Tour driving mode right now. If we switch it over to Sport, it changes up like so. And then we also have Track, which I like how it kind of goes black for a second and then kind of shows up with this crazy sort of rev counter and big huge what gear you're in and speedometer, and then all of your important things off to the other side. So we could cycle back to touring mode, and that's where I'll kind of go through all of the features that we could look at. And I'm going to use these buttons here with the squirrel knob, and then you can also press down for OK. That'll kind of configure everything on the right side. So trip computers and everything. Fuel economy, which I'm sure you're probably not too concerned with this vehicle. Sort of a trip timer, which is pretty neat. If we move over, we have some performance pages, so a 0 to 60 timer, lap timer, and also the G-force meter. Moving over, we also have your audio screen, the maintenance, so you can scroll down for a couple of things like that. They also have air filter life, which is pretty cool, and a couple of things like hours on the engine and idle time and things like that. We have all of our options, so the display design, you can customize that, and it's linked to the driver mode, which means the visuals you see in there will change with the driver's mode. We also have various things like speed warning, tire pressure, all of that good stuff. We have one more mode over here to simplify the gauges, like so, and that'll kind of get rid of anything that is sort of not necessary for the other side. Pretty much does it for the gauges. Very beautiful, very clear view for the gauges up there. Taking a look up top, this being the 1LT, we do not have the heads-up display, and that is why you have a little change pouch over here. This would be where the heads-up display controllers would be. Taking a look up here, we have a sort of larger speaker and the defrosters, and just a really neat design over here with this kind of floating dash sort of presence there. It's also continues on the other side, and it's pretty neat. So we also have our infotainment screen here too, which is currently on the climate control, but we have a quick home button over here and a couple of different home screen settings that you can go through. This would kind of be the home screen that I would leave it on. So it's got a mixture of the radio and telephone, but you also bring up the navigation if the car's equipped with it, and it gives you a pretty good look on a couple of different menus there. You have your presets up top and shortcuts on the bottom. You can press the home button there for quick, or the physical home button. We have the audio screen right here, and the audio volume knob right up here. Pretty neat volume knob there too. We have all of our different sources to each side. The phone screen, Wi-Fi, different users that you get set up, and the system settings. We have app settings, which we can turn on Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And lastly, our vehicle settings. This also has the buckle to drive, so it won't let you go into drive unless you buckle. You could turn that on and off if you'd like. So a pretty good amount of customization within this screen. You have shortcuts for Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and then all of your apps over here that you could download. And scrolling over, we have our OnStar services, and we also have a sort of digital climate control setup with the temperatures to either side, fan speed up top, and where you want the air to come out in the center. We also have Sirius XM shortcuts, Amazon Alexa, Spotify, and things like that. So that's pretty cool. Now this, again, being the 1LT, does not come with the built-in navigation, but of course, once you hook up your phone with the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you have navigation. So this is our selector for the transmission, 8-speed dual clutch transmission, so that's pretty cool. It'll be really interesting to see how this transmission is when we get it out on the road. So again, if you're still watching, make sure you stay tuned to the end of the video because we're gonna test it out. So sort of every selection that moves the vehicle is a pull knob. So we can see reverse and drive, you kind of pull, and then sort of stationary gears like the park or neutral are buttons. So that's pretty neat. If we drop it down into reverse, you can see you have the reversing camera. Nothing crazy, again, because this is the 1LT, so you don't get the front view cameras or anything. We have neutral and drive. So as you notice, it says D auto because that automatically puts you into automatic. If you want to switch manually, you just press the button right here, and you can switch gears yourself with the paddle shifters. On this side over here, we have a very large traction control off button, and we also have our mode selector. And you can see there's a little knob over there, and you just twist it over to the sides. That'll go between your touring, track, sport, everything like that. So that's pretty cool. Over here we have a lid for a couple of cup holders. And we also have this very long line of buttons. Now trust me, it looks like a lot, but it's pretty easy to get used to. At the top over here, this is the driver's temperature for the climate. At the bottom over here, that's the passenger's temperature for the climate control. And then we have a few buttons in between. So the sync, automatic for the climate control, where you want the air to come out. The fan speed to turn the climate control off or on. We have AC recirculating and the defrosters right there. So pretty simple. Looks like a lot, but it's pretty simple once someone explains it. So that's pretty cool. Taking a look on the passenger side, they have a pretty blocked off view over here, but they get to share part of the armrest, so that's good. And in the armrest, it opens up like so. You have a USB-C, a regular USB, and aux jack over there. And they also give you a pretty cool spot to put your phone. You can slide it in right there. You have a speaker up here with the little Corvette Stingray emblem. And take a look at that. Have a direct view into the engine compartment. So you do have a glove box down here, but take a look at that. There's no handle. There's really no way to tell how to get in there. But after a little bit of figuring it out, I finally figured that you have to press this button in the center, which really doesn't even look like a button, and that will pop it open. So there's actually a pretty good amount of space in there for storage, and there's also two sort of hidden climate vents there too. You have the auto dimming frameless rear view mirror, and also if you get the, I'm not quite sure what trim it comes on, but it's definitely not the 2LT. There's a little button on the back, and that will kind of turn into a rear view camera. Again, this being the 1LT doesn't have it. We have OnStar controls up here, hazards way up here, so that's an interesting place for the hazard buttons. We also have lighting up here too, which is all LED. We have the latch back here to release the roof, so you could take that off. And we have some pretty nice cloth up here too for the headliner. One more thing is the visor. So once you open that up, you have some lights and also some more handles that you need to release to get that top off. That pretty much does it for the features on the interior. Let's get this thing out on the road. I have been anticipating this for a long time. All right, setting off in the C8 Corvette. Now this is just something special here. We're gonna start off here with a little bit of a turning circle test like I normally do. I'm assuming this vehicle does just fine. Oh yeah, more than fine. This has a great turn to it. As you can see, just about 1 1/4 turns to lock. Just driving this vehicle around in the parking lot, I can tell it's got a great ratio to the steering. We're going to start off in touring mode because we're going to go a little bit through the through a couple of lights, because since we're in Hartford, Connecticut, which is the capital, so it's pretty much a city setting. But we are going to get a feel for the acceleration and a little bit for the handling as well. I'm very curious to see how this dual clutch transmission reacts. And thus far, it's not jerky in the parking lots, and it shifts very smoothly. You know, I have to say, it's just a very different feeling because you get a little bit of the noise from the engine in the back, sort of like a more of a lifter noise. So you just kind of get that tick tick tick, and it's just a weird, I wouldn't say weird, but just a different feeling when it comes from in back of you. And you know what? This is really kind of quiet in the touring mode. And once you get on it a little bit, the exhaust valves will open up a little bit for you. And you know, just going over some of the bumps, this has got the magnetic ride control as part of the Z51 package, and this thing actually rides pretty comfortable. I'm pretty shocked. So we'll hang out at this light for a second, and get it out onto one more straight road, and then we'll also take us onto the back road where we'll test out the acceleration. At that point, we'll put it into the sport mode. I won't go as far as being in track mode, but we'll go put it into sport mode. We'll go from 25 miles an hour up to 60 and see how fast we can get it there. So that should be interesting to see how fast. You know, these cars are 2.95 seconds to 60 in an ideal condition. So that is supercar level. And sitting in here, it feels like you're in something a lot more special than the name Corvette would suggest. So that's just, I really can't get over this vehicle. You know, as I said before, it's one thing seeing this car in pictures, but it's a completely different thing seeing it and being able to experience it in real life. So setting off again, there's one thing I'd like to tell you guys. This car is still in its break-in period, even though it's a pre-owned vehicle, so not 455 miles. And you could tell it's still in its break-in period because of the reduced red line. So in respect to the next owner, I'm going to keep the RPMs around 4,500 so that we're not doing anything to potentially damage the motor while it's in its sort of break-in period. As you can see down there, it'll also tell you when the vehicle is in the cylinder deactivation mode. So as you saw a little bit earlier, it was sort of lit up green and it says V4, and now it is in V8. At this point, I'm going to switch it over to sport mode. You could hear the exhaust note get nice and deep. I'm also going to put it in manual mode. So get it up to 25, and wow. This car is a racket. Unbelievable. Let's see how. Yeah, this car is a true performer. You know, not even having it on the racetrack or anything like that. Just getting a general feel for it, a quick feel. You know, it's enough to tell that this is a serious performance car. And that dual clutch transmission is just a lightning fast reactions when you have it on the paddle shift mode. So it's just, wow, this is crazy. This car is unbelievable. And I am honestly sort of blessed to be able to check this car out because they've been so far and few between. You know, you see a lot for sale, but a lot of them aren't available or sold. So in that respect, I'm very lucky to be able to share this vehicle with you, and I find much enjoyment in doing that. So wrapping up this video, I hope you have had as much fun as me checking out this C8 Corvette, and I hope you stay with us here at Ty Drives for more videos just like this one.